Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I'm Tony Haggerty at the Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, and I'm joined as ever on match day by Ryan McGinley at the Ryan McGinley on the Exeter Twitter handle. He's somewhere outside Celtic Park, looking like a Blues brother, which is probably not the right look for Celtic Park or anywhere near it. But there you have it. Ryan, how are you? The sun's shining. Are Celtic going to do it this week? We were so up for it last week. What a beautiful day it would have been to win the title, Ryan, but it's not going to happen today. But it still could happen this weekend.
Postcard weather this afternoon today. It would
Uh,
have been absolutely perfect for Celtic to clinch the title today. That's not to be earliest they can do it tomorrow, but there's still a job to do. There's a job to do this afternoon. Celtic need to go 3 points closer to achieving their fourth consecutive title. They can do that for a win against Kilmarnock today. Derek McInnes before the game said that he expects a reaction from Celtic. I'm expecting a reaction too after last week's defeat to St Johnstone at McDermott Park. So yeah, I'm up for it. I'm hoping that the team's up for it, hoping that the manager's up for it, and they can get 3 points closer to where they need to be. But delighted to be on with you. The sun is shining, and looking forward to a good game of football at 12:30 this afternoon.
First things first, a bit of housekeeping, and as you can see, the Celtic Way is brought to you by S1 Jobs. And if it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow and Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. So start your search today, and we thank S1 Jobs for their sponsorship of the podcasts. Ryan, the teams are out, and I'll let you do the honours as you always do. You run through the team and I'll list the substitutes. Carry on.
No bother at all. I'm just waiting for them coming up on the screen just now. Unless I can't see them and they're not up yet. I'll remember the team off by heart. So you've got Kasper Schmeichel. Oh no, you don't actually. You've got Yami Sanisalo. Great start. Yami Sanisalo. You have got Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales returns to the team, and Greg Taylor. He also returns. You get the same midfield of Callum McGregor, Arne Engels, and Rio Hitati. You get Adam Ida leading the line today. On the left, joined by Daisen Maeda, and on the right, it is James Forrest, who returns for his first start in a wee while. I'll let you read out the subs.
And the substitutes are Scott Bain, Austin Trusty, Jota, Nicholas Kuhn, Luke McCowan, Jeffrey Schlupp, Mike Nawrowski, Paulo Bernardo, and Anthony Ralston. Ryan, that was 4 changes that Brendan Rodgers has made after last week's question of the players' mentality, comfort zone, call it what you like. Talked about it yesterday as well and said a lot of interesting things, did he not?
He certainly did. Yeah, it was a bit of a blockbuster box office Brendan press conference once again, talking about complacency, potential complacency, and the side, talking about putting an arm around Kuhn after Sunday's game as well as an injury update. And it's unfortunate that Yang misses this game through injury, because I think if he was fit, he would have maybe got the nod over James Forrest. But
Yeah.
An experienced pro coming into the team in James Forrest, you're thinking he's still got that record to keep going, and no better chance to do it than today. He spoke earlier on in the season, Brendan Rodgers, about James Forrest coming alive in March, April time. Be great for him to get another goal today. I got his first goal of the season in order to keep that run going. I don't know how many seasons it is in a row. Is it something like 15, 16? It's an incredible number like that. So up to him to keep that record going. But you trust him to do a job, because he has looked fresh and sharp whenever he's came onto the park in recent weeks.
What do you make of the changes, Ryan? Are you happy with the changes? Happy with the team? My big element of surprise is that he's not brought in Paulo Bernardo or Luke McCowan to that midfield. That kind of stuck out for me, but I guess he's keeping faith with the guys that maybe let him down last week and give them another shot at redemption, possibly.
Yeah, he must see something in those players. He must see a fired up reaction. Otherwise, if he didn't see that reaction, and I don't think they would be in the team, they must have been really annoyed with their efforts, or maybe lack of efforts, on Sunday. Cameron Carter-Vickers also had an interesting press conference yesterday where he said that I think there's been a couple of articles coming out since then of people a wee bit bewildered about what he had to say. You look at the stats bomb report that I did earlier on in the week. Celtic did make enough chances to at least draw that game, but they just didn't take them. And, it's only so good making chances. You've got to take them at the other end of the park, and you've got to keep the ball out of the net on the other end of the park. They didn't do that. That's why they defeated the game. I understand why he's making that argument, but at the same time, the proof's in the pudding. Celtic get beat off of St Johnstone at McDermott Park, so there is quite rightly going to be a little bit of a backlash. But yeah, I'm surprised that the likes of Luke McCowan and Paulo Bernardo, especially the latter, I would have liked to have seen Paulo Bernardo coming back into the side. It's been a stop-start season for him due to injury. That injury came at probably one of the worst times for him, when he could have really made a name for himself in sort of January, February time, going into the Champions League games, going into a busy part of the season. But, it's an opportunity for those players that didn't do so well last week to make things right and get Celtic 3 points closer to the title. Arne Engels, clearly an emotional player. We all know that Rio Hatate an emotional player that really is headstrong and gets annoyed with himself when he puts in a bad performance. It would not surprise me if those two run the show today, because they've got it in them. They've got a track record of doing it for Celtic, more often than not. And the reason why they're at the top of the table come the end of the season, why they're so close to winning the title, is because players like Arne Engels and Hatate and McGregor as well have delivered in that midfield. I expect the two of them to post a reaction today.
James Forrester scored in 15 consecutive seasons, Ryan. It would be 16th consecutive season if he did it today or in any of the games that he features in between now and the end of the season. Celtic, including today's match, have 7/8 games at the end of the season. Ryan, we've spoken about it all week, finish the season with a flourish. So, big game for Adam Idah today, Ryan, I think.
Yeah, it's a big game. I remember one of the last big games he had against Kilmarnock. He came out with flying colours. His performance at Rugby Park, essentially, I think that was one of the games that got Celtic to sign him up permanently. Remember, you and I were both at that game at Rugby Park, and we were almost mesmerised by the way that he was playing. It was a really, really good individual performance. I remember in particular there was one run that he made that was like, right, there's potential there to be a really, really good player. Like with Bernardo, it's quite funny that those two lone players that made it permanent, they've had up and down seasons, the two of them. It's not been all plain sailing for the two of them, but Adam Idah, he's delivered for Celtic in the past in these, not pressure moments, but the business end of the season when points are required to win titles. Remember last season when he did it against Motherwell, he did it in the Cup as well against Rangers, Easter Road as well with two big penalties, one at the start and one at the end of the game. He's been in this scenario before. There are a bit of eyes on him and a little bit of pressure on him to deliver, given the price tag and given the way his season has went, despite posting his best total for goals scored. There'll always be that expectancy as a Celtic striker to score more, regardless of what Brendan Rodgers has to say about where the goals are coming from. As a Celtic striker, you will be expected to score goals, at least from the support. So that's his job today, is to lead the line, lead it with a little bit of style, and really put in a good performance. Show that reaction that Derek McInnes in particular is not feared of, but expecting from the side. Give them what they're talking about is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yes, get your predictions coming in, guys, and we'll throw a few of them up before we head off the stream. Ryan, Scales coming back in today for Austin Trusty. Are you happy with that? Did you expect that?
I don't know if I was expecting Scales to come back in straight away, if I'm being honest with you. It could have been any of them, to be honest. It could have been Trusty, it could have been Nawrowski. But I think you can see, and we were speaking about this, we didn't get too excited when Mike Nawrowski had those two good games for Celtic, because even listening to what Brendan Rodgers had to say, it's almost as if, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, you're in there because these other players are injured right now. You're in there because Liam Scales and Austin Trusty, respectively, are injured. And once they're back to full fitness, you probably will be on the bench or worse, out the team. He did well for those two appearances, but I do think that his future lies elsewhere, and that's why Scales is back in. Rodgers clearly likes Scales. He likes what he did last season in terms of resurrecting his Celtic career. And more often than not this season, at points, he has featured over Austin Trusty as well, especially in the first half of the season. I remember there was a point where Trusty came out of the team and he took an awful long time to get back in it. So, he's a dependable player. He does have his limitations, but you expect him to go and do a job today, especially against the physical threats that Kilmarnock possess.
Taylor back in as well in place of Jeffrey Schlupp. I did expect that one because I thought Jeffrey Schlupp was off it last week, Ryan, and he has had plaudits since he came in, but I thought last week was probably his worst game. That coupled with his performance in the Rangers game, he wasn't exactly great in that one either. So that's fair enough. I'm on board with that switch.
Yeah, and this is the first game that Greg Taylor has started since he was taken off after 45 minutes against Hibs. You know, he made that first appearance coming off the bench in the second half against St Johnstone last week. But prior to that, he'd been on the bench for a few weeks, and Jeffrey Schlupp had taken that position, made it his own, with a bad performance, or not a bad performance, but a shaky performance from Jeffrey Schlupp. It presents an opportunity for Greg Taylor. I don't think anybody's under any illusions that Greg Taylor will be leaving the club this summer. You know, I think it's pretty obvious. I think there's been a lot of nonsense in the media as well about where he could potentially be going next season. To think of that move would be absolutely unthinkable. I think that they'll be going somewhere different than where the media seem to hope or think that he's going. But an opportunity for him today, an experienced pro, a trusted member of the squad. He's been here before, playing against his former team in Kilmarnock. I expect him to go and do a job this afternoon.
Now, Ryan, we've spoken about the changes that the manager has made. He has kept faith with the midfield. You know, so it's that triumvirate of Anna Engels, Rio Hatate, and Callum McGregor. You happy with that?
I'm happy with it because I know all of these individuals are good players, but I think maybe right now I would have liked to have seen a couple of changes. I thought Luke McCowan made a good impact when he came off the bench. He just had a shot that went just past the post. Paulo Bernardo, you know what he brings the squad. I thought he was really good when he came on against Hearts a couple of weeks ago. You and I were speaking about that after the match, about how he didn't look as if he even gave the ball away in his 20-25 minutes on the park, and he's still on the bench. I think there'll be more time for him come the end of the season when a Scottish Cup final, potentially, if they get to the Scottish Cup final, that he'll play looking for that spot in the team to be up for grabs, trying to get into that squad. But I think that I'm quite happy that those two. I'm quite happy that those two players are left in the team, because Rio Hatate and Arne Engels, you know, we know what they're capable of, and I think Brendan Rodgers has sort of extended an olive branch to these two players and said, right, we know you were both subpar last week. Go out and show why you are good players. Change the narrative that's been going around Arne Engels and Hatate recently. You know, they've had a lot of stick this week online. Those two, Arne Engels needs to be more coming from him. Rio Hatate doesn't do it in enough games. So it's up to them, you know, business end of the season. Go out and show why he's deserved to be league champions, and go and do it with a bit of style this afternoon.
Sky cameras are there today, Ryan. 12:30 kick-off, early start and all that. Celtic can, as you say, take themselves within 3 points of the title with a win, or in the event that Rangers lose tomorrow, then they will wrap up the championship. And we were talking about this off air, but that would be keeping with the theme of the season. It would be as anticlimactic as it gets, wouldn't it, Ryan, if Rangers were to lose tomorrow and Celtic were to win the title, if they defeat Kilmarnock today, sitting in the house without kicking a ball?
Yeah, absolutely. But the job is still on Celtic to go out and get the 3 points, because that cannot be achieved without Celtic getting a win this afternoon. It's all about Celtic getting their side of the bargain done, completed, and then they can watch tomorrow's game, watch on, and see if the title will be delivered to Celtic without them kicking a ball the following week. You know, it would sum up this season, to be honest, because both teams have been dropping points. So would it be a bit anticlimactic? Yes, to an extent, but you just want to get it done as soon as possible. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it gets confirmed and Celtic are the league champions, and I won't complain whatsoever. But it would kind of sum up this season, because both teams have been dropping points left, right, and centre, particularly in 2025.
I'll throw in a few predictions, Ryan, before I get your own prediction in a second, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Daniel Phillips is the first up. He's saying 3-0. He was saying Kuhn's score first. Kuhn's not even playing today. He's on the bench. So
goals in the second half, perhaps.
Then possibly, yeah. We need to wait for him to come on in if that's the case. And JJ Celtic saying 4-1 Celtic. There you go. There's an emphatic victory. 2-0 says John Millant and Ida Brace. 2 for Ida. That's a bold prediction there. Dennis Jameson saying 3-1. John Millant coming back in, and he's saying, 3-0. And he's saying Jamesy to score as well. There you go, keep up that record. Sweet 16, that would be for James Forrest if he does that. Hazel Finn, Morning, Hazel. How you doing? Regular contributor commenter. 4-0. Come on, you boys in green. She's saying. P. McLaughlin coming in 5-0. Scales, Forest, and a Maeda hat trick. Another bold prediction. There's Steve Kelly 3-0. James to get one as well. Scott Dougal saying 5-0. Des Harkin saying 3-0. Lots of them saying Celtic win by a few here. Ryan John Paul second saying 4-0. And Steve McFarlane saying a wee reset today. Play the Celtic way 3-0 today. I'm on the hoops. He's saying Dyson's da 5-1. Dyson 2. Ida 2. And James to get one as well. Lots of people saying James Forrest to score. Edward Vyavos, bit of levity here from Edward Vyavos, 1-0. Some players are down tools. He's saying Mark Thompson saying 4-0 Celtic. There you go. And Shania Morrison saying 3-1 to the boys. James to score if he plays. He is playing, so there you go. So, and Seamus, there's always one Ryan. Seamus McLean, 6-0. There you go. Your own Ryan, will you just be happy with the 3 points, or do you want to see Celtic do this in style, play the Celtic way?
Well, I want Celtic to put on the style. I'm going to be a little bit conservative with a small C in my prediction. I'm going to go for 3-0. I think Celtic will get the job done. I think there'll be a couple of goal scorers on the day, but I don't think it will be. I think the main thing is get the result first and think about the performance. Yeah, if the two go hand in hand, then absolutely brilliant. But there's a couple of players that I really want to see have good performances today. And Adam Ida's been mentioned a couple of times. I want to see him have a good performance for the 60, 70 minutes he'll be on the park, as well as that midfield that we're talking about. They've had a lot of stick over the past week on social media. It's time for them to prove a couple of doubters wrong and put in a good 90-minute performance. Either that or the players that are on the bench will have to come off and further stake a claim for next week's games. But I think that there's a couple of people saying it as well. I think that James Forrest will score. I've got a funny feeling that he's just one of these big game players that really turns up when Celtic need him to. He's been doing it his whole Celtic career. He's a Celtic legend, no doubt about that. And I think that he will continue that goal scoring record. He'll make it a Sweet 16 this afternoon. I think that he'll score one, maybe even two this afternoon.
Yeah. So 3-0, you said. I'm going to say 3-0 as well. I want three things to happen here, Ryan. I want the midfield to turn up and boss it. I want Adam Ida to have a stormer, and I want James Forrest to score, keep up that wonderful record of scoring in 16 consecutive seasons for Celtic. If all of that happens, it'll be a satisfactory day's work. 480 odd people joining us, Ryan, on the live stream before kick-off. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. We try and read your comments as we're going along and get your predictions as well. So thank you for tuning in. Wherever you're watching it, enjoy it. Always say it. It's result dependent. Ryan, enjoy the action. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you might have to take those shades off at some point to watch the game, but here's hoping that the sun shines kindly on Celtic and you enjoy your day.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I hope we all enjoy our day, because that means that Celtic get 3 points. They go 3 points closer to where they need to be, which is retaining that Scottish Premiership. That's the job this afternoon. That's the objective. Let's go to see if they can claim that objective and finish that objective and really put that scoreboard pressure again on Rangers and see how they respond the next day against Aberdeen. But more on that after the game, once we know what Celtic have turned up this afternoon.
Yeah, so keep tuned. You'll see my instant analysis on right after the final whistle. Ryan's player ratings will be there as well. There'll be Q&As from the various protagonists who speak after the match. So enjoy it, guys, whatever you're doing. Have a good one. Enjoy the sunshine as well. Ryan, I will see you at some point after the game. Have a good one, sir.
Cheers, guys.